The Importance of Discrimination, an iMovie by Angel Moreno and Sebastian Rodriguez. Racism, sexism, classism, and even segregation has been around ever since we could remember. These issues and more have separated most of our society as well as deprived them socially. These issues continue to spread as people pass down their own opinions to the younger generation after them. Humanity has shared their own stories to the world on how this has affected some of their lives. Some of these unfortunate stories are the Scottsboro Boys, the Central Park Five, and the Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman trial. These personal stories of different but similar experiences lead us to some ideal questions like, how does the need to belong affect how others perceive us? How does it change our minds and behavior? Let's examine the history of discrimination that is still being taught to students, the students of various cultures facing discrimination, and the moral dilemma and growth of our society. Many have learned about the history of these topics. Many have even experienced these events as well. Such as the Scottsboro Boys and Central Park Five. These trials that the innocent people endured were painful because they were being imprisoned for something they hadn't done in the first place. Although in different periods of time, they are still quite the same. Both groups were accused of raping a white woman, but even with irrefutable evidence that this act had not occurred in the first place, both groups were still prosecuted. Again, even though these affairs had taken place in very different time periods, they are still similar. This says something on how our world interprets how we perceive racism and everything included in that category. There has even been interviews on statistics on how many people see or experience racism to this day. In a specific study conducted by NBC News, over 64% of Americans say that racism is still a huge problem in our society, as well as 30% who say it isn't a major problem but still agree it exists. Students who have been taught the history of discrimination now understand the meaning of it. However, they are also starting to realize how they are being treated. Despite being aware of this, they refuse to speak up because they don't want more attention drawn to themselves. However, this situation shouldn't be ignored because discrimination for children has been known to cause anxiety, depression, obesity, high blood pressure, and substance abuse. Ignoring it and not talking about it will only be unhealthy, but also irresponsible. It may be hard, but it's also very, very important to incorporate it in your life so you don't say the wrong thing that may actually offend someone. It may also not look very good for you in the future if people think that you yourself are a racist. Humanity's moral dilemma includes being torn between labels and color, and even though we are all human and have the same functions, we still act as though we should be separated by race and culture. Discrimination has been around long enough for humanity to get used to the routine of leaving people out because of the color of their skin or making fun of each other for what we believe in. All of these situations is what we do to each other and has only gotten worse since the 1950s. This is when we made laws that left out rights for colored people. Many at the time thought it was okay and normal. However, later in the years, people began to speak out. This is when the civil rights movement arose. And this is also where society started to move past their ways, and this is where moral growth comes in for us. Martin Luther King was one of the first people to speak out and defend rights for African Americans and other races. After he was assassinated, his speech was rapidly spreading throughout the United States of America. His message had gone through to many, and more people began to speak up for his rights. To this day, the U.S. is still fighting for rights for all races and cultures. To conclude, discrimination along with other factors had been around for as long as we can recall, even before we were born into this world. As more and more people are rapidly learning about the seriousness of discrimination, more of society is starting to realize that it's being done to them. Even though our Earth had been supporting racism, sexism, classism, and even discrimination, we have learned to go past that and start learning from our disgraceful mistakes that we have made. Here is what children think of this topic.
We're continuing our 360 special report, Kids on Race, The Hidden Picture. Its aim is to study children's attitudes on race and understand how and why they form their opinions. We teamed up with renowned child psychologist Dr. Melanie Killen to try to design this study. Now take a look at this. Killen and her team showed 13-year-old children this picture and asked them to describe what was happening. Questions like, what's happening here? Are these children friends? And would their parents want them to be friends? Now, the picture is designed to be ambiguous. What's happening is in the eye of the beholder. Then they showed them this picture and asked the same questions. Now, the only difference between the two pictures, the race of the kids was flipped. Both white and African American children were tested, and the psychologist showed a similar set of pictures to 6-year-olds. At our request, they also asked kids open-ended questions about race to understand how it plays into their own lives. And as you'll see, the responses were raw. Some of the experiences they described were shocking. In our first report, we told you that when testing 6-year-olds, the research showed an overwhelming majority of white kids were negative about interracial friendships. The majority of black children, on the other hand, were positive. But we discovered a lot changes from childhood to adolescence. Take a look. The study found when 6-year-old African American children were asked about interracial friendships, the majority responded like this.
Carrie was trying to help her.
And how much would they like it if the two were friends?
Really like it.
But watch how they respond by age 13.
Carrie, she's a bully, so she pushed Abby.
Do you think that Chris and Alex are friends?
No, not really.
The optimism we heard from young black children fades with age. At age 6, 59% of black children think the two kids in the picture are friends. By 13, a total flip. 63% do not think they're friends, which matches white teens' attitudes. Our expert says experiences like 13-year-old Jimmy's of rejection begin to explain the disappointing trend. He says a white friend's mom forbade her son to be friends with him.
They end up to say because you're black, so you can't hang out. Her and her son.
Oh, so she kind of very openly said that the reason why her son could not hang out with you and your family was because you guys are black.
Yep.
Because of their skin.
Dante was bullied so badly because of his race, he had to change schools.
I've been bullied for like the way I looked and the way of my skin at my previous school that I went to. And they just kept on bullying me. And I didn't like it. I just asked them to stop, like, over and over again. And then I tried not to break, but I couldn't, hold on anymore. So I asked my mom, can I leave?
Peer interactions are a way to understand.
Our expert, Dr. Killen, says the decline happens because they've been given a sobering reality check on race.
They're getting a lot of negative feedback through elementary school and adolescence. And I think if you have that kind of experience and you have it repeatedly over a number of years, your optimism is going to decline because you've been told, you really don't belong here, you're really not part of us.
Dr. Killen also says anxiety about interracial dating from both black and white parents can have a profound effect on how their kids view friendships.
Parents of young children do often send messages about we can all be friends with everybody. They do send the positive messages. But by adolescence, they start getting more nervous about this, and they start thinking, well, you should be friends with people like you or like us.
How are you? I'm Soledad.
Soledad O'Brien asked some kids about the issue after it came up during their tests.
Do you think your parents would be fine if you decided to start dating a black girl, brought her home?
Honestly, my parents probably wouldn't be too happy because if I was to marry a black girl, you're connected to their family now, and who knows what her family is really like.
So they probably wouldn't be that excited about it.
Probably not.
Shantae admitted anxiety and a double standard for interracial dating in her family.
If I were to date a white guy, a lot of people wouldn't really have a problem with that. But if my brother were to bring home a white girl, there's definitely going to be some controversy.
From whom? Your parents or you?
From me. from me. Really, because I think it's more of a problem for people when a black man brings home a white woman, because it's been like that for years.
So it would matter to you?
I think it would, unless, of course, she were not to act, I guess, so quote-unquote white.
What does that mean?
Flip my hand, oh my God, ha 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 ha, that is so ghetto. No. No.
There was some good news in our results as well. The racial balance of a school can make a major positive difference on how white kids view race. The study tested kids from majority white, majority black, and racially mixed schools. The difference was remarkable. Students at majority white schools were the most pessimistic about race. Only 47% think their parents would approve of kids from different races being friends. In racially diverse and majority black schools, 71% are positive about it. The reason, according to Dr. Killen, is friendships.
There's almost nothing as powerful as having a friend of a different racial ethnic background to reduce prejudice. You have that experience, it enables you to challenge stereotypes.
So you feel like you're
Samantha attends a majority black middle school.
My grandparents have a lot of, they're very racist against African Americans and other races, but it's 2012, so they have to push that aside, and they'll be like, no, that's wrong to be, you want to stick with your own race, and I'm like, no, I'm friends with everyone.
Anderson Cooper, CNN.